Welcome back to my channel, where I bring you the scariest horror short film ever recorded. Tonight's story is called The Sound of Footsteps. And if you believe this happened in real life, I will tell you another story afterwards about something that happened to me while I was working as a paramedic. If you don't believe me, then write the word real in the comments section so I can show you the footage after this is finished. But if you do want to hear the story, then let's begin. The year is 2017, and the location is Manchester, England. It is the early hours of the morning, and Jake is fast asleep in his bed next to his girlfriend, Ellie. They've been dating for a few months and everything seems fine. Jake and Ellie are both shift workers, but Ellie works nights and Jake works days. So most of the time they get to see each other before one of them goes off to work. Tonight is no different. Ellie has just got home from her shift, and they share a quick kiss before going to bed. All of a sudden, just after 3 a.m., they hear a bang from downstairs. Bang. Obviously, it's quite loud, and they both start to panic. Now, the house is old and it does make some strange noises sometimes, but this noise sounded very distinct. Ellie says, "What was that?" with a slight hint of fear in her voice. She looks over at Jake, and he shrugs his shoulders, saying that he has no idea what it was. A few seconds pass and they go back to sleep. Not long after, though, they hear it again. Another bang. This time it sounds like it's coming from the front door. Ellie now begins to get really scared but tries to stay strong for Jake because she knows that he's terrified of the dark. Ellie says, "It probably just blew itself open. Don't worry, love." Just as she says this, though, the bang comes again. And this time, there is a knock on the front door. Ellie grabs onto Jake, and they both listen intently. When they hear the knock again, Ellie asks, "Do you want to check it out?" Jake now seems more scared of the dark than Ellie, who is trying to be brave. He tells her not to worry, that he'll check it out. So he gets out of bed and walks over to the bedroom door. As he opens it and begins to walk out into the hallway, Ellie calls out, "Don't forget your torch." Because it's pitch black and all you can hear is their breathing as Jake walks further and further away from the bedroom. When Jake reaches the front door, he uses his hand to feel around for the key. His fingers trace up and down the door until he finds it and unlocks it. Then he slowly opens the door and looks outside. There's nobody there. Jake checks either side of the door, but there's no sign of anybody. He even steps outside onto the porch to check, but there is nobody there. Still, he can't help but feel uneasy about the situation. So he quickly closes the door and locks it before walking back inside. Jake walks back into the bedroom where Ellie is still sitting in bed. He tells her that he didn't see anyone, and she lets out a breath that she was holding. They try to carry on as normal and go back to sleep. However, moments later, they hear another bang followed by a knock at the door. Ellie starts to cry. She tells Jake that she doesn't want to be in the house anymore and that she wants to leave. But Jake, being the gentleman, tells her not to worry and that he'll sort it out. He once again gets out of bed and makes his way towards the door. As he walks through the darkness, he switches on the hallway light. But when he gets to the door, it flickers on and off. Ellie calls out, "What's happening?" Jake replies, "I don't know," but he knows that whatever is out there is trying to get in. Suddenly, the power cuts out completely, and they are plunged into total darkness. The only light now comes from the street lamp outside, which casts an eerie glow across the room. All Ellie and Jake can hear is the sound of the wind outside, which seems to be getting louder and louder. Then they hear it. Footsteps. Heavy footsteps are now coming closer and closer to their front door. Ellie screams, "Run," as the footsteps get louder and louder. The door handle begins to turn, and as the footsteps stop, Ellie and Jake huddle together in the corner of the room, waiting for the inevitable. Then they hear the sound of breaking glass. The front door is smashed to pieces, and a figure begins to crawl through the opening. Ellie and Jake scream as the unknown figure crawls towards them. Ellie hides her face in Jake's shoulder as the figure gets closer and closer. They can hear the figure breathing heavily as it approaches. Then suddenly, it stops. The breathing stops. And they hear the sound of footsteps moving away. Ellie and Jake look at each other in disbelief. Could it have been an intruder? A burglar? Or something more sinister they don't know? But they do know that they need to get out of the house. Cautiously, they make their way to the front door and step outside. They can see that the figure had broken in through the front window and had crawled on the floor to the door, presumably trying to smash it open from the inside. But why? Why would someone do that? And who would come to their house in the middle of the night and try to break in? With no answers, Ellie and Jake decide to run to a neighbor's house. As they make their way through the darkness, they can hear the sound of footsteps behind them. Ellie and Jake turn around, but they can't see anything in the darkness. They run faster, their footsteps echoing in the night. They can still hear the footsteps behind them, getting closer and closer. Then suddenly, they stop. Ellie and Jake look back, but they can't see anything. Maybe it was all in their heads. Maybe it was just a dream. But as they turn to leave, they hear the sound of footsteps behind them once again. Ellie and Jake scream and run away. They never looked back, but sometimes at night when they are trying to sleep, they can still hear the sound of footsteps. Heavy footsteps getting closer and closer until they are right outside their door. Then they stop. So what do you think? Is this a real-life story or a creepy fiction? Let me know in the comments below. And if you would like to hear another scary story, then please stay tuned. Thank you for watching.